Hello, my name is Rachel Renee Smith, and I am the owner of Rain Publishing, and I'm sitting here talking with Winston Jackson, who is a sought-after speaker for singles and married couples, as well as the author of 2 books, Marriage, 21 Years of Doing It Wrong, 21 Days to Get It Right, and Preparing to Date Your Soulmate. Winston, thank you so much for speaking with me.
Thanks for having me.
Can you tell us what motivates you to write and speak on the topics of marriage and marriage preparation?
It really comes, I really think it started from childhood because I was raised without my father. My mother and father were not married. I was born out of wedlock. And one of my real desires was to one day have a family, have a home, and live the so-called American life. And I finally got married and just could not wait to start life out with my new wife and did all of those things that you would typically see a newlywed couple, only to find out that I made a ton of mistakes in that process. And because of the mistakes I made, it caused a lot of hurt and pain for not only myself, my children, friends, relatives, my ex-wife. And now that I have an understanding of what marriage is all about, my heartbeat is to educate others so that they do not experience what I experienced with going through a divorce. Not only that, to give them a true understanding of God's design for marriage, therefore they can live and receive God's best, in a spouse and in their entire life.
Wow. So at what point did you know that you would begin to write and speak on these topics? Because I know, like you just shared, you had these experiences. So what was it that kind of let you know, look, I'm going to make a difference in this area? Was there something specifically that kind of drove you, or a turning point that you remember that influenced you to go in this direction?
Yeah, it was actually, I've been told practically all of my life that I was going to be a preacher. Mm-hmm. And I promised myself that if God ever called me, that I would not run from that calling. Mm-hmm. And there was a point, probably within the last 2 years of my marriage, that I had it actually told to me twice by 2 different people, 2 different occasions, that, hey, God is calling you into the ministry. They didn't say as a preacher or pastor, but he's calling you into the ministry. And at that point, I began to really reach out and to pray and to seek God for, okay, well, what is this that you want me to do? And amazingly, in the middle of my marriage, which it was certainly headed for divorce, I remember opening up my Bible one morning, and it opened to Ephesians chapter 5, and I believe at that point that was the turning point for me, because God truly, way of the Holy Spirit, spoke to me in those words and began to teach me about marriage. And at that point, it was revealed to me that this is what I want you to do. So that was the turning point for me right there. So it was like I had the experience of a divorce and, a failing marriage. And God began to teach me. And not only that, I'm like, okay, God, how in the world do you want me to teach people about marriage when the relationship that I'm in now is failing, is broken, and I have messed it up?
Right.
And I remember very, very, very clearly what God said to me. He said, I'm going to give you the wife that you need, either in the one that you're married to now or in someone else. And I believe over the next couple of years, God began to work on me, of course. Mm-hmm. And I believe he also gave my ex-wife an opportunity to begin to understand as well. And I believe she rejected that knowledge. And of course, like we know, I ended up in divorce.
Yeah.
And God, being true to his word, introduced me to someone brand new. telling you, it's been good ever since, because I was able to enter into a new marriage with an understanding of, from God's viewpoint of what marriage is all about.
Yeah. I think that's just so awesome. And, I talk with authors or aspiring authors all the time who they also have a message to share that was kind of born out of an area of difficulty in their lives. And they're kind of unsure, if that's something that they're even capable of doing, or if they even should do it, because it's such like a personal area, but at the same time they feel that they are called to share this message. Is there any advice that you have for someone like yourself who feels they're called to write or speak about a topic where they've personally experienced, a struggle or difficulty?
My first advice is of course, to God consistently, constantly, and to seek spiritual counsel if you have, if you have elders or ministers or pastors that are around you that are living a godly life that can mentor you. Of course, go to them, speak to them. You don't necessarily have to get your answer from them as far as your calling is concerned, but at least they can help point you in the direction. And wait for God to confirm that He has actually called you to do this. And know that you're not going to be perfect. And this is one thing that I experienced with my first book. God is not looking for perfection. He's looking for your obedience. Excuse me. So the advice I would give them is be obedient to the calling. And don't worry about, your skills or your lack of ability or your knowledge, because that's exactly where God wants you. He does not want your knowledge. He wants to use His knowledge. He wants to teach you.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So allow Him to teach you whatever He wants to teach you, to put in, to your material, to your book or your speaking or whatever that is that God may have called you to do.
I absolutely agree with you. And I've seen it in my own life, where when it came to a point where I was willing to do what God called me to do, truly willing, and it's like that's when my prayers truly lined up with His will for my life, and all the help that I needed came to me. Like I didn't even have to search hard for it. It just came, So I definitely...
Let me add this statement to that, because one of the other things would be, when you've experienced your difficulties in your own life, many times there are people out there that are experiencing or have experienced some of the same pains and frustrations and failures that you have experienced.
Yeah.
And in telling your story, you bring healing to someone else. And that's really one of the reasons why God calls us to do these things.
Right.
I find it happens all the time when I speak. As a matter of fact, I had a young lady send me an email after a session I did a couple of weeks ago. And she says, finally, I've heard someone who can understand the pain of divorce. And she just went on to just thank me. So that's the other thing, that, whatever God has given you is not for you, but it's for someone else. So know that, while you're doing, while you're pursuing whatever God has called you to pursue.
Yeah. What would you say are like some of the benefits that you've seen in your own life as a result of this path that you've taken to, minister out of this place?
It has given me a peace that I've never experienced before. I can view life from a different perspective. The Bible tells us to renew our minds.
Yeah.
And when I look now at my relationship with my current wife, and I understand my role in her life, and I pour into her, and I serve her, and I respect her, and I honor her, and I submit to her, what I get in return is a glorious, glorious wife. And and that has been huge. And not to mention, I've become a better father. My sons now look at me. I mean, we've always loved each other. I've always, did the basketball games, football games, and all of that. But now they're looking at not daddy, but they're looking at a father. They're looking at a man, and they're beginning to see a man of God that's paving a way for them, so that now they know how to live a godly life. So that, I think, those things have been huge, huge for me.
Awesome. Now, I've read your book, your new book, Preparing to Date Your Soulmate. And as I was reading it, I was like, wow, I really wish I read this, prior to my first marriage, because I'm also remarried. And it was like, your book kind of really tells someone what to expect to experience in marriage, because it's like when you don't have that knowledge, you're just kind of looking at, I just love being around this person. We have fun. It's just this big romantic view, and you don't really think about how, the real everyday challenges of life can affect a relationship. And, that's what I appreciate about your book, is that you really give that realistic view of, here's what to expect. And not only that, but here's how to prepare in advance so that, your pre-marriage life doesn't interfere with your married life.
Right. We can understand.
Yeah. So I just wanted to ask you, what is like your number one advice that you have for a single person who's been waiting anxiously to meet and marry their mate?
Man, that's such a hard question, because we would be here all day.
No.
I think I have about 4 or 5 number one things that I say to the single people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to try to sum it up in one, but it may end up being 2 different things. The main thing that I say is, because I deal with a lot of Christians, a lot of people that are in church, and I do deal with some that are not necessarily active church, type people.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell them, what do you want from God? You chances are you want the best that God has to offer. You want the best possible mate that God has to offer.
Yeah.
So in order for you to receive that, you have to become that. Prepare yourself to be the best possible mate that God can offer somebody else. And when you do that, then God can now present that person to you, or put that person in your path. But you have to work on you first. And I say falling in love with Jesus, getting that relationship with him, and getting yourself to the point to where there is nothing that you desire more than a relationship with God and fulfilling your purpose in life. And when you do that, you'll find that you're running this road, you're running down this road, you're pursuing your purpose. It's just you and God, and all of a sudden you're going to look to your right and you're going to see Eve there. You're going to see Adam there.
Mm-hmm.
And God is going to bring that person, and that person is going to be like-minded, because guess what? You guys are headed in the same direction. That same direction is pursuing your calling and pursuing God. So I really try to convince, or to convey the message over to singles, to not be so concerned about being married and falling in love and thinking about the wedding and all of those things, but to simply pursue God. And I guarantee you, because it happened to me, it happened to you, and I've talked to so many different successful couples
mm-hmm.
who simply said, God, I want you, and I'm going to pursue you. And when they do that, God brings the perfect mate, down their path, and they live out a successful marriage together.
Absolutely. God has plans for all of us, and his plans are always good, you know. That's what I found. If we just line up with his plan, you know, it works out. And I thank you so much for the wisdom, you know, that you share and your transparency. And I just believe that, you know, whoever's willing to plug into what you're giving, that, you know, they will find, you know, the peace and the joy that God has for them. Is there anything else that you'd like to share about your work or what's coming up next for you?
And there are so many things. I'm working now with a couple of other guys. I believe that the you know, God likes to show us the end sometimes before He shows us the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So what God has originally shown me at the time of Him telling me that I want you to teach about marriage, there's actually a manual that is being created and put together. And it's going to take a whole lot of time because it's going to be some research on, you know, event-based situations within marriages, time, you know, type of events that happen. So like for newlyweds that have been married 1 or 2 years, what are some of the things that they experience within those 2 years, and be able to talk about those things and to teach those things so that when they hit the 2-year mark, or when they have a child, or when they experience a loss of a job, loss of income, or maybe even loss of a family member, what to expect, what type of pressure to expect from those things, and then how to handle them. So that's one thing that's down the line. And then what's coming quickly at me is a conference that I'm putting together at this golf and country club in a little small town called Cordele, Georgia. The name of the place is called Lake Blackshear. It's absolutely breathtaking.
Wow.
It sits in the middle of the country, which is so nice, and it sits on a lake, and you know, you can, you know, it's boating, it's golfing, you know, jet skis, the works. It's just everything that's out there. It's just such a relaxing atmosphere. And we're going to, you know, a lot of times you hear about conferences, and the conferences are just for married couples. Well, we're doing a conference this time for both married couples and for singles. Wow. So for singles, it'll be an opportunity to meet somebody that may be from a completely different background, different city. We're expecting people to come from all over the world to this event. And there'll be separate classes, and then there'll be some combined classes. So I'll be teaching from my book and kind of helping people to get themselves prepared. Can you hear the excitement in my voice about this?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a dynamic event at a great location. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm bringing in a really close friend of mine. As a matter of fact, he's my mentor, my financial mentor.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to teach some very, very simple principles about your finances. And just to tell you a quick testimony about how he's helped me, I'm sure he can help others. You know, at the end of my divorce, I moved. I was completely broke. I had nothing. And I had a laptop and $40. That was it. I had a borrowed car, living with my mom. I had nothing. So I did have like $20,000 in debt. And this was a little over 7 years ago. And I met with this guy, and we have just worked through some things, and he, you know, changed my mindset about money and rearranged some, you know, just redefined my thought process on how to handle money. And let's see, the debt that I had is completely gone.
Wow.
I have more money now than I have ever had in my entire lifetime in my savings account. Wow. My credit rating has shot up so high that and all of this is within a 7-year time frame. And really, I can't say 7 years with this particular person. It's really been about maybe 3 years with this person. And he's a very, very dynamic teacher. He's anointed in the area of finances. He works with a lot of NFL players. So it's like I can't wait to get him out there because I really believe that he's going to teach, the common person that's working a 9-to-5 job, $10, $15 an hour, teach them how they can maximize their resources.
Yeah.
And live a life of choice rather than live a life of debt. So, that conference, we're expecting it to be June 20th, and there'll be some information out on my website, and of course I'll share it with you.
Yeah.
So hopefully put it on your website so that people will know all about that.
Oh, definitely. I mean, that sounds absolutely amazing. And that financial piece, because I know there's been plenty of statistics on how finances are like a big marriage killer, when there's a lot of debt and stuff like that, how it negatively affects marriage. So,
right.
Awesome tools that you're, putting in people's hands to help them navigate through those situations. Wow.
Right. Yeah, that financial issue, actually, I did some research. That's on one list I found that was the number 4 reason, and it's normally within the top 2 or 3 reasons why divorce happens because of financial issues. So that is going to be huge.
Wow. Well, I'm just so excited to know you, so excited for all the things that are happening in your life, and I'm definitely going to continue to watch and support, and want to definitely make sure people know, how to stay in touch with you, how to stay connected and know what's going on. So can you share, the ways that our readers and listeners can find out more about you and stay connected with your, news and updates?
I always say the best way is this dynamic tool that somebody made millions of billions off of called Facebook. Because, although I am on Twitter, I do have my own a website. But the primary place to find me, to even inbox me is on Facebook, and it's under Winston Tyrone Jackson Sr.
Okay.
You can also send me, you can look me up on the website. The web address is www.winstontjacksonsenior.com. That T, as in Tyrone, is my middle name.
Yeah. Awesome. I just absolutely love what you're doing, and just thank you once again for taking the time out to talk with me today.
Well, I want to thank you for being such an outstanding person and outstanding citizen, and being such a support and just an outstanding person in general. You saying all these great things about me, but the truth is you have really, really helped me with getting myself together and allowing me to really focus not so much on the product, the book itself, but allowing me to focus on the ministry part of it. While you do, most of the research and all the hard work, so to speak. So you've been a blessing to me. I appreciate you. I appreciate Jeff for loaning you to me every couple of days and what have you.
Yeah.
You guys have an outstanding relationship. I admire the things that I have heard about you guys. So it's
Wow.
really good. And I say to you what you say to me. Keep doing what you're doing. People are watching.
Yeah.
People desire a relationship like you have. There are women who desire to pursue their dreams the way that you are. And even if they never say a word to you, they are watching, and you are being a witness for Christ, living the lifestyle that you're living. So I thank you personally for that.